This little ghetto girl thinks she can play chess. Brad Morrison's cruel laughter echoed through Technova's glass office as 2.3 million TikTok followers watched live. He aimed his phone camera at 11-year-old Zara Williams, who had been quietly arranging the ornate chess pieces in the lobby. Zara's hands stopped mid-motion. Her mother, Angela, cleaning nearby, flinched as if physically struck. "Look at her touching our $5,000 chess set like it's a toy from the dollar store." Brad zoomed closer, his voice dripping with disdain. "Bet she doesn't even know which way the horse moves." The office fell silent. Employees looked away uncomfortably. Angela reached for her daughter's arm, whispering, "Come on, baby, let's go." But Zara didn't budge. Instead, she turned to face Brad's camera directly, her young face carrying an expression of calm determination that seemed impossibly mature. Have you ever watched someone mock a child on live television, completely unaware they were about to be destroyed by a hidden genius? Technova's headquarters stood like a gleaming monument to Silicon Valley excess. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched 40 feet high, flooding the open workspace with California sunshine. Exposed steel beams painted electric blue crisscrossed the ceiling, while neon signs proclaimed the company's motto in pulsing letters, "Innovate, disrupt, dominate." The lobby featured a living wall of succulents, craft coffee stations every 50 feet, and sleeping pods for power naps between disruption sessions. But the crown jewel was the ornate chess set positioned directly in the center, a $5,000 Italian marble masterpiece that served purely as decoration. In 3 years, no employee had ever touched it. It existed solely to project intellectual sophistication to visiting investors. Brad Morrison embodied everything Technova represented. At 28, he'd built his social media empire from a dorm room to a billion-dollar valuation in just 5 years. His uniform never varied. Designer hoodie, ripped jeans that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and limited edition sneakers that dropped only for influencers. 50 million followers across platforms hung on his every word about disrupting traditional thinking and maximizing human potential. His origin story was Silicon Valley legend. A working-class kid from Oakland who taught himself coding, bootstrapped his first app, and never looked back. But success had a way of erasing memory. The struggling teenager who once cleaned offices to pay for internet access had vanished, replaced by someone who saw service workers as invisible props in his content creation. "Today's about showing you the real hustle, Tech fam," Brad announced to his phone, walking through the office like he owned the world, which technically he did. Building an empire requires vision that most people just don't possess. The employees moved around him with practiced deference. Software engineers in their 20s and 30s, mostly male, mostly from elite universities, all making 6 figures before they turned 25. They'd learned to laugh at Brad's jokes, repost his content, and never question the hierarchy that kept them comfortable. But Brad's gaze kept drifting to the cleaning crew working quietly in the corners. Angela Williams moved through the office like a ghost, her movements efficient and nearly silent. At 35, she carried herself with dignity that 4 years of night shifts couldn't diminish. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her Technova cleaning uniform was always spotless, pressed with care despite being industrial polyester. She'd once been pre-med at San Francisco State, dreaming of becoming a pediatric nurse. But pregnancy at 21 had rewritten those plans. The baby's father disappeared before Zara was born, leaving Angela to work 3 jobs just to keep them housed in a tiny apartment in East Oakland. The night cleaning position at Technova paid better than her other work, retail during the day, waitressing on weekends. She'd taken the job because it let her bring Zara on days when childcare fell through, like today during spring break. The employees barely noticed them, which suited Angela fine. Invisible meant safe. But her daughter was impossible to ignore. Zara Williams possessed that rare quality that made adults pause, an old soul's wisdom shining through a child's eyes. At 11, she stood barely 4.5 feet tall, her dark skin glowing with health despite their modest circumstances. She wore clothes from Target and Goodwill, always clean but clearly not designer. Her only luxury was a worn notebook she carried everywhere, filled with careful handwriting that adults assumed was homework. It wasn't. The notebook contained chess notation, game analysis, and strategic observations written in Zara's neat script. While other kids her age played Roblox and watched TikTok dances, Zara studied the games of Bobby Fischer, Garry Kasparov, and Magnus Carlsen. She'd memorized over 1,000 classical games, analyzing them during her mother's work shifts. 3 years ago, she discovered chess through a YouTube video during one of Angela's late nights at Technova. Something about the logical beauty of the 64 squares called to her. Within months, she was devouring every chess resource the Oakland Public Library offered. Her online rating under the username ZW_Prodigy had climbed steadily to 2180, just 20 points shy of expert level. She'd defeated titled players who assumed they were playing an adult. Her tactical pattern recognition was approaching master level, though she'd never had money for formal coaching or tournament entry fees. The irony wasn't lost on Zara that she studied the game of kings while her mother cleaned up after tech royalty. "Move faster with those tables." Brad's voice cut through the ambient office noise as he filmed himself walking past Angela. "Content creation waits for no one, including the cleaning crew." His 2.3 million followers ate up this kind of boss energy content. Comments poured in. "CEO mindset. No participation trophies. That's how you lead." Tyler Kim, Technova's senior developer, glanced up from his workstation. At 32, he was one of the few employees who remembered his own working-class roots. His parents had run a corner store in Koreatown, working 16-hour days so he could attend coding boot camp. Sometimes Brad's casual cruelty made him physically uncomfortable, but mortgage payments and stock options had a way of quieting conscience. Emma Rodriguez, the HR director, watched the live stream with growing unease. She'd tried multiple times to address Brad's treatment of support staff, but he always deflected with jokes about maintaining performance standards and creating accountability culture. Her diversity initiatives remained decorative, much like the chess set. As Brad's camera swept across the office, it captured the perfect Silicon Valley tableau. Young innovators changing the world, their workspace a temple to human potential and technological progress. But the lens couldn't capture what everyone chose not to see, the people whose labor made their dreams possible, working in plain sight yet remaining invisible. Zara finished arranging the chess pieces with careful precision. Each piece found its proper starting position. Pawns in their rank, rooks guarding the corners, knights and bishops flanking the royal couple. Her touch was gentle but confident, like someone who understood these weren't just expensive decorations, but soldiers in an ancient war game. "Zara, honey, we need to move to the conference rooms," Angela whispered, glancing nervously at Brad's camera. But something in the air had shifted. The casual cruelty had reached a tipping point, and Zara felt it. She'd spent countless hours in this office, watching the tech workers come and go, listening to their conversations about disruption and innovation and changing the world. They spoke about potential and talent and vision, never realizing that genius might be standing right beside them, invisible in plain sight. The marble chess pieces gleamed under the LED lights, waiting. Brad's livestream numbers were climbing fast, 2.8 million viewers and growing. The dopamine hit of viral content coursed through his veins as he scanned the office for his next bit of authentic CEO content. His eyes landed on the chess set where Zara still stood, her small frame dwarfed by the massive marble pieces. "You know what, tech fam?" Brad's voice took on that calculated spontaneity that made great content. "Let's do something epic. See this chess set? It cost me more than most people make in 6 months. How about we put it to actual use?" The live chat exploded with anticipation. Fire emojis cascaded down the screen as viewer count jumped to 3.2 million. "I'm talking about a real chess match. CEO versus..." He paused dramatically, camera panning to Zara. "Well, versus anyone brave enough to step up, even the cleaning lady's kid if she thinks she's smart enough." Tyler Kim looked up from his laptop, recognizing the dangerous glint in Brad's eyes. This was Brad in full predator mode, hunting for content that would break the internet. "Come on, don't be shy." Brad's voice carried across the office as employees gathered around, phones emerging to capture the moment. "I'll make it interesting. If anyone, and I mean anyone, can last 15 moves against me, I'll donate $50,000 to whatever charity they want." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. 50,000 was serious money, even by Silicon Valley standards. But here's the catch, Brad continued, his grin sharpening. When they lose, and trust me, they will lose, they have to admit on camera, in front of all these beautiful viewers, that some people are just naturally more intelligent than others, that success isn't random, that there's a hierarchy for a reason. The office fell uncomfortably silent. Even Brad's usual yes-men shifted nervously. What's wrong, people? Where's that energy? Brad strode toward the chess set, his camera capturing every step. Don't tell me Silicon Valley's lost its competitive edge. Angela appeared at Zara's side, her cleaning supplies forgotten. Come on, baby, she whispered urgently. We need to finish the conference rooms. But Brad blocked their path to the elevator, his phone still recording. Whoa, where are you going? I thought your daughter might want to try her hand at the game of kings. His voice dripped with mock encouragement. What's the matter? Afraid little princess here will embarrass herself? The viewer count hit 4 million. Comments flooded in. Savage! Do it, kid! This is brutal! I mean, she was just touching the pieces like she owned them. Brad continued, playing to his audience. Maybe she thinks she understands something about strategy, about thinking 10 moves ahead, about intellectual warfare. Zara's grip tightened on her notebook. She could feel the weight of everyone's stares, the cruel energy of the mob feeding off her potential humiliation. Her mother's hand touched her shoulder protectively. It's okay, Mr. Morrison, Angela said quietly. We'll just go. I'll play. The words cut through the office noise like a blade. Zara stepped forward, her young voice clear and steady. I'll play your chess game. The live stream chat went insane. The office held its collective breath. Brad's grin widened until it looked almost painful. Oh, this is going to be beautiful content. 3 years earlier, 8-year-old Zara had discovered chess by accident during one of her mother's midnight shifts at Technova. While Angela worked through the empty offices, Zara sat in the break room with an old iPad, its cracked screen held together with clear tape. She'd been watching random YouTube videos to stay awake when a chess tutorial appeared in her recommended feed. Something about the 64 squares called to her, the perfect geometry, the way each piece moved with its own personality and purpose. The knight's L-shaped leap, the bishop's diagonal slice, the queen's unlimited power. Mama, look at this game, she'd whispered when Angela came to check on her. Angela paused her moping to glance at the screen. The young Indian chess prodigy Praggnanandha was explaining a tactical puzzle, his fingers dancing across the board with mathematical precision. That's nice, baby. Very smart boy. But Zara was transfixed. She watched the video 3 more times, then found another, then another. By dawn, she'd consumed 6 hours of chess content while her mother cleaned every surface in the building. The obsession grew from there. Within a month, Zara had checked out every chess book the Oakland Public Library owned. She studied during breakfast, analyzed positions on the bus to school, and solved tactical puzzles in her notebook during recess while other kids played tag. Her teacher, Mrs. Patterson, noticed the careful diagrams filling her margins. Is this math homework, Zara? No, ma'am, it's chess notation. This is how grandmasters record their games. Mrs. Patterson had never seen an 8-year-old write algebraic notation with such precision. The real breakthrough came when Angela managed to afford internet access for their cramped Oakland apartment. Zara created her account on chess.com under the username ZW_prodigy and dove into the global ocean of online chess. Her rating climbed steadily. 1,200, 1,400, 1,600. Each night while Angela worked her 3 jobs, retail clerk by day, waitress on weekends, and Technova cleaning crew after midnight, Zara battled opponents from around the world. Russians in Moscow, grandmasters in India, college students in Germany, they had no idea they were losing to an elementary school girl from East Oakland. How was school today, baby? Angela would ask during their precious few hours together. Good, Mama. I beat a chess master from Argentina. He was rated 2150. Angela didn't fully understand the numbers, but she recognized the fire in her daughter's eyes. It was the same intensity she'd once felt about medicine before life redirected her dreams. The sacrifices began small and grew larger. Angela skipped meals to afford chess books from the used bookstore. She worked extra weekend shifts to pay for a plastic chess set from Goodwill, $20 that might have gone to groceries. When Zara's shoes wore through, Angela duct-taped the soles rather than buy new ones because her daughter needed those chess puzzle collections more than fashionable footwear. "Why do you work so hard for my chess stuff?" Zara asked one night, watching her mother count quarters for the laundromat. Angela sat beside her daughter on their second-hand couch, pulling her close. "Because you have a gift, baby, a real gift. And gifts like yours don't come along often. Mama's job is to make sure nothing stops you from using it." By age 10, Zara had memorized over 800 classical games. She could recite Kasparov's victories against the IBM computer Deep Blue. She knew every trap in the Sicilian defense and could execute the Queen's Gambit with surgical precision. Her online rating reached 2050, then 2100, then 2180. She was approaching expert level, a rank most adult players never achieved. Tournament directors across the country had never heard of ZW_prodigy, but online chess forums buzzed about the mysterious player who seemed to appear from nowhere and devastate titled opponents. "One day," Zara told her mother as they practiced on their plastic set, "I'm going to be the youngest black female grandmaster in history, and then maybe people will see that intelligence doesn't care what neighborhood you're from." Angela smiled, though her heart ached with protective worry. She'd watched her brilliant daughter face enough casual racism and classism already. The chess world was predominantly white, predominantly wealthy, predominantly male, but genius was genius, regardless of packaging. "Just remember, baby, you don't need anyone's permission to be brilliant." Now standing in Technova's gleaming office with millions watching, Zara felt the weight of every sacrifice, every late-night study session, every moment her mother had chosen her daughter's dreams over her own comfort. The marble chess pieces gleamed under the LED lights, waiting for their first real game. The Technova office transformed into a digital coliseum. Employees abandoned their workstations, phones raised like torches as they formed a tight circle around the marble chess set. Brad's live stream count exploded past 5 million viewers, with notifications pinging constantly as other influencers began reposting the feed. "This is about to be legendary content," Brad announced, adjusting his phone on a makeshift tripod. "David versus Goliath, Silicon Valley edition, except Goliath actually has the stones and the brains." Tyler Kim found himself holding his breath as he watched from the inner circle. Something about Zara's calm composure unsettled him. Most kids would be terrified, but she stood studying the board with the focus of a surgeon examining an X-ray. "All right, princess," Brad said, settling into his chair with theatrical confidence. "Since I'm white, I move first. Hope you at least know that much." The live chat erupted with laughing emojis and "R.I.P. little girl" comments. Brad played one .e4 with a flourish, sliding his king's pawn 2 squares forward. The classic opening, aggressive, direct, designed for quick attacks. "That's called the king's pawn opening," he explained to his audience with condescending patience. "It's how real players start the game." Zara didn't hesitate. Her small hand moved with surprising confidence, sliding her c-pawn 2 squares forward. 1. c5, the Sicilian defense. Tyler Kim's eyes widened. Even he knew that was serious chess theory, the sharpest, most complex counterattacking system in the game, not exactly beginner territory. "Oh, she knows the opening name?" Brad laughed for the camera. "Someone's been watching YouTube. Too bad chess isn't about memorizing a few moves, sweetheart." But his casual dismissal carried a hint of uncertainty. The Sicilian wasn't random. It was chosen by world champions for a reason. Brad continued with 2 and f3, developing his knight toward the center. Standard textbook play. The live chat buzzed with chess enthusiasts recognizing the opening. "She played Sicilian. This kid knows theory. Brad might be in trouble." Zara responded with 2 d6, solidifying her pawn structure and preparing to develop her pieces. Her movements were economical, purposeful, no wasted motion or hesitation. "Cute," Brad muttered, though his Instagram-perfect smile looked slightly strained. He played 3 d4, offering a pawn trade in the center, the classic way to handle the Sicilian defense. Without missing a beat, Zara captured 3 cxd4, The position opened up, transforming from quiet maneuvering into sharp tactical combat. Brad recaptured with his knight. 4.NXD4. See how this works, TikTok? You have to understand pawn structure, piece development, central control. He was performing for the camera, but Tyler noticed Brad's explanations were becoming more defensive than educational. Zara's next move sent a murmur through the watching employees. 4.NF6. Her knight attacked Brad's advanced pawn while developing with perfect timing. The move served multiple purposes: offense, defense, and piece coordination all in one. Lucky guess, Brad said, but his voice had lost some of its earlier confidence. The viewer count hit 6 million as word spread across social media platforms. #ChessChallenge began trending on Twitter. The game continued. 5.NC3A6, 6.B3E6. Each of Zara's moves demonstrated a deep understanding of Sicilian defense principles. She wasn't just moving pieces randomly, she was executing a coherent strategic plan. Emma Rodriguez watched from the HR section, her phone recording everything for legal documentation. She'd seen enough workplace harassment to recognize a potential lawsuit brewing, but this felt different, dangerous. By move 8, Brad's casual arrogance had evaporated entirely. Zara played 8, B7, completing her kingside development with textbook precision. Her pieces coordinated like a symphony orchestra tuning for performance. "Okay, enough playing around," Brad announced to his audience, though sweat beaded on his forehead under the office lights. "Time to show everyone what real strategic thinking looks like." He launched into an aggressive kingside attack with 9.F3 and 10.QD2, preparing to castle queenside and storm toward Zara's king. It was the kind of violent, tactical chess that looked impressive to casual observers. But Zara had seen this exact attacking setup hundreds of times in her studies. She calmly castled kingside with 10.0.0, placing her king in safety while her rook emerged on the central file. The live chat was going insane. Chess streamers across Twitch had abandoned their own content to react to the feed. Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura's chat exploded with viewers begging him to analyze the position. "This little girl is playing master-level theory," someone typed. "Brad's about to get demolished." By move 12, the position had become razor-sharp. Brad's pieces aimed menacingly at Zara's kingside, but her counterplay was building with quiet precision on the queenside. She'd transformed the game from Brad's preferred street fight into a surgical procedure. "Time trouble yet, kid?" Brad taunted, though his own clock showed he'd used significantly more time. His usual rapid-fire decision-making had slowed to careful calculation. Zara glanced up from the board for the first time since the game began. Her dark eyes met Brad's with complete calm. "I'm not in any trouble, Mr. Morrison." The office fell silent except for the constant ping of social media notifications. 7 million people watched an 11-year-old girl stare down a billionaire CEO with the confidence of a seasoned warrior. The position on the board had become a battlefield of extraordinary complexity. Brad's pieces clustered around Zara's kingside like wolves circling prey, but her quiet counterplay was building with the inexorable force of a gathering storm. Move 16 arrived with Brad launching his main assault. Back 7+. He sacrificed his bishop to crack open Zara's king position, a classic attacking motif that had destroyed countless amateur players. "There we go," Brad announced triumphantly to his 8 million viewers. "This is how you punish defensive play. Watch and learn, TikTok." The live chat exploded. "Bishop sack! Checkmate incoming! GG kid!" But Zara barely glanced at the captured bishop. She calmly played Kex H7, accepting the sacrifice with the confidence of someone who had studied this exact tactical pattern dozens of times. Her king, temporarily exposed, would soon find safety while Brad's attack stalled. Tyler Kim leaned forward, his programmer's mind recognizing elegant logic in Zara's play. She wasn't just surviving Brad's attack, she was improving her position with every defensive move. "Check," Brad announced with theatrical flair, playing Ung 5+. His knight and queen aimed menacingly at Zara's exposed king. Without hesitation, Zara played KG8. Her king retreated to safety while her pieces maintained perfect coordination. The move looked passive to casual observers, but Tyler could see the deeper plan. She was preparing a devastating counterattack. Brad's confidence began to crack as his assault failed to find the knockout blow. "Come on, where's the resistance?" he muttered, forgetting he was still streaming to millions. "You're supposed to be fighting back." That's when Zara struck. Move 21, RxC3. The rook sacrifice landed on the board like a thunderclap. Zara had given up her most powerful piece, worth 5 points in material, to eliminate Brad's defending knight. The move looked insane to amateur eyes, but chess masters worldwide recognized genius in action. "What?" Brad's voice cracked. "Did she just sacrifice her rook?" The live chat went absolutely nuclear. Chess streamers across Twitch abandoned their own content to analyze the position. Grandmaster's commentary flooded social media. "Brilliant sacrifice. She's winning by force. This kid is a monster." Emma Rodriguez stopped pretending to work, her phone recording every second for what was clearly becoming historic footage. The entire office had abandoned any pretense of productivity, but Zara wasn't finished. Her next 3 moves flowed with mathematical precision: 22, BXC3 23, QB6 plus 24, QXB2. Each capture served multiple purposes, attacking Brad's exposed king while her remaining pieces coordinated like clockwork. "This isn't possible," Brad whispered, his social media persona completely forgotten. Sweat poured down his face as he stared at the board. His material advantage meant nothing when his king hung naked in the center, surrounded by Zara's perfectly placed pieces. Tyler Kim found himself holding his breath. He'd never seen anything like this, surgical precision from an 11-year-old that would make grandmasters jealous. The turning point came on move 26 when Zara played QXA2. Her queen invaded Brad's position like a guided missile, threatening checkmate while simultaneously attacking his rook. The tactical combination was so complex that even experienced players struggled to calculate all the variations. "How is she seeing this far ahead?" Brad's voice carried a note of panic. His usual rapid-fire decision-making had slowed to desperate calculation as he tried to find any defensive resource. But there was none. Zara had transformed the chaotic tactical battle into pure technique. Her pieces worked together with the harmony of a professional orchestra, each move forcing Brad deeper into an inescapable net. "Time," Zara said quietly. Brad looked up, confused. "What?" "You're in time trouble, Mr. Morrison. You have 2 minutes left. I have 28. The revelation hit the office like a shockwave. Brad, the supposed time management expert who preached efficiency to millions of followers, was being systematically outplayed by a child who had used her clock like a master. The live viewer count had exploded past 10 million. #ChessGenius trending worldwide. International grandmasters provided live commentary across multiple platforms. The chess world had stopped to watch an 11-year-old demolish a billionaire. Move 29 brought the coup de grace. Zara played QB1+, a quiet queen move that looked harmless but carried devastating force. Brad's king had no safe squares. His pieces, scattered and uncoordinated, couldn't provide adequate defense. "Check," Zara announced simply. Brad stared at the board in growing horror. Every possible king move led to worse positions. His army of expensive pieces had become a liability, blocking his own escape routes while Zara's queen and bishop controlled every critical square. The office held its collective breath as reality dawned on everyone simultaneously. This wasn't just a chess game anymore. It was a public execution of everything Brad represented. His arrogance, his casual cruelty, his assumption that wealth equaled intelligence. "I don't understand," Brad muttered, his hands shaking as he reached for his king. "How are you?" But Zara was already 3 moves ahead, her dark eyes scanning the board with the cold calculation of a surgeon. She had memorized this exact endgame pattern from a Kasparov-Karpov World Championship match. The position was won by force. "Checkmate in 4 moves," she announced calmly to the watching world. The words hit the live stream like a nuclear bomb. 10 million viewers erupted in digital chaos as the impossible became inevitable. The cleaning lady's daughter had just announced the execution of a tech billionaire's ego on live television. Brad's face went pale as he studied the board, desperately searching for any escape that didn't exist. The announcement hit Technova's office like a seismic shock. "Checkmate in 4 moves." The words hung in the air as 10 million viewers processed what they'd just witnessed. An 11-year-old girl had just pronounced the death sentence on a billionaire's reputation. Brad's hands trembled as he stared at the marble board, his mind racing through every possible escape route. But Zara had seen this position before, studied it in the quiet hours while her mother cleaned these very offices. The endgame was forced, inevitable, beautiful in its mathematical precision. That's not possible, Brad whispered, his voice barely audible over the explosion of social media notifications flooding the room. The live chat had transcended chaos. Messages scrolled too fast to read. Holy shit, she's a genius. Brad is done. Checkmate in 4 rocketed to #1 trending worldwide. Chess streamers abandoned their own content to provide emergency commentary on what was becoming the most watched chess game in internet history. Tyler Kim stood frozen, his programmer's mind struggling to process the reversal. The quiet cleaning woman's daughter had just executed the most devastating tactical sequence he'd ever witnessed. This is master-level play, he whispered to no one in particular. Around the office, the transformation was instantaneous and complete. Employees who had laughed at Brad's opening cruelty now fumbled for their phones, desperate to document history. The same people who had enabled his casual racism suddenly pretended they'd been rooting for Zara all along. Did you see that rook sacrifice? Emma Rodriguez found herself saying to anyone who would listen. I knew she was special. You could just tell. But the most dramatic shift happened in the live audience. Brad's usual army of sycophantic followers turned with the merciless efficiency of a mob sensing blood. Comments that had mocked Zara 20 minutes earlier now savaged their former idol. How are you getting bodied by a kid, bro? Delete your account. Your career is over. Respect the queen. The viewer count hit 12 million as news outlets scrambled to cover the story. CNN prepared breaking news alerts. ESPN's chess correspondent started emergency broadcasting. International grandmasters provided live analysis across multiple platforms. Mama, Zara said quietly, not taking her eyes off the board. Are you watching? Angela stood at the edge of the crowd, tears streaming down her face. For 4 years, she'd watched her daughter's genius bloom in secret, studying by dim light while the world slept. Now that brilliance blazed under the brightest spotlight imaginable. I see you, baby, Angela whispered. The whole world sees you now. Brad attempted one final power play for his audience. Okay, you got lucky with a few moves, but chess is about— Mr. Morrison, Zara interrupted, her young voice cutting through his desperate spin. Would you like me to show the exact sequence? Every move is forced. You have no choice. The office fell silent except for the relentless ping of notifications. 12 million people held their breath as an 11-year-old girl offered to explain precisely how she would destroy a billionaire. Brad's social media empire, built on projecting invincibility, crumbled in real time. His follower count began its historic plunge as the internet witnessed authentic genius humiliate manufactured authority. The marble chess pieces gleamed under the LED lights, transformed from expensive decoration into instruments of justice. Show me, Brad said finally, his voice hollow with defeat. Silence descended over Technova's office like a cathedral hush. 12 million viewers across the globe leaned into their screens as Zara Williams, an 11-year-old girl from East Oakland, prepared to deliver a chess lesson that would echo through internet history. The sequence begins with QB1+, Zara explained, her small hand hovering over the white marble queen. Her voice carried the calm authority of a grandmaster analyzing a classical game. Your king must move to a 2. It's the only legal square. Brad's eyes darted across the board, searching desperately for alternatives. But mathematics was merciless. His king had no choice. With shaking hands, he moved the piece to a 2, sealing his fate. The live chat exploded in real-time analysis as chess masters worldwide confirmed the inevitable. Forced mate. She's calculating like a computer. Brad is finished. Now QB 2+, Zara continued, sliding her queen to deliver the second check. You must play K1. There's nowhere else to go. Brad stared at the position in growing horror. His billion-dollar empire, built on projecting intelligence and dominance, was being systematically dismantled by a child whose mother cleaned his offices. The irony was so perfect, it felt scripted. Tyler Kim found himself recording every second, recognizing he was witnessing the birth of a legend. Around the office, employees pressed closer, their earlier mockery replaced by awe and something approaching reverence. "Ka won," Brad whispered, moving his king to the corner like a condemned man walking to his execution. Zara's next move was poetry in motion. "QB 1+, she announced, returning her queen to give the third check. "And now your king must go back to a 2. Do you see the pattern, Mr. Morrison?" The pattern was beautiful and brutal, a systematic herding of Brad's king between two squares while Zara's other pieces maneuvered for the final blow. It was chess as art, logic as weapon. Brad's face had gone ashen, sweat dripped onto the marble board as he made the forced move. "Ka-2. And now," Zara said, her dark eyes meeting Brad's for the first time since the sequence began. "QXB7 checkmate." The words hung in the air like a judge's final verdict. Zara's queen swept across the board to capture Brad's bishop, simultaneously attacking his cornered king from two directions. There was no escape, no defense, no miracle salvation. The position was mathematically perfect. Checkmate by force. The office erupted. Tyler Kim started applauding first, his claps echoing off the glass walls. Emma Rodriguez joined him, tears streaming down her face. Within seconds, the entire Technova workforce was on their feet, cheering for the little girl who had just delivered the most beautiful checkmate any of them would ever witness. But the digital explosion was even more spectacular. The live stream viewers hit 15 million as the moment went viral across every platform simultaneously. #ChessGenius, #Zara Williams, and #Checkmate Champion dominated trending topics worldwide. Chess clubs from Moscow to Mumbai shared the clips. Educational institutions scrambled to analyze the game for their curricula. Brad sat frozen, staring at the board as reality crashed over him. His social media empire, 50 million followers built on projecting superiority, collapsed in real time. The comments were merciless. "Get wrecked by a child! Genius beats money! That's how you humble a billionaire!" Angela pushed through the crowd of celebrating employees, falling to her knees beside her daughter's chair. "Oh, baby," she whispered, pulling Zara into a fierce embrace. "I'm so proud of you." The image of mother and daughter hugging while surrounded by cheering tech workers became instantly iconic. Photographers captured the moment from every angle. Artists would paint it. Historians would study it. The visual of love triumphant over money and power resonated across every culture and language. "Good game," Zara said simply, extending her small hand toward Brad in the traditional post-game gesture. Brad stared at her outstretched hand for a long moment, his public persona crumbling around him like ancient architecture. 15 million people watched him realize that intelligence, real intelligence, couldn't be bought or faked or live-streamed into existence. With the weight of history pressing down on him, Brad Morrison shook the hand of the 11-year-old genius who had just changed everything. The handshake lasted exactly 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds carried the weight of justice served and privilege checked. As their hands separated, the fundamental power structure of Technova, and by extension Silicon Valley itself, had permanently shifted. Tyler Kim stepped forward first, his voice cutting through the celebratory chaos. "Everyone needs to understand what just happened here," he announced to both the live audience and the office crowd. "We just witnessed a chess master reveal herself. While we've been building apps and chasing valuations, this young woman has been studying the greatest strategic game ever created." His words carried across the live stream to 16 million viewers, many of whom were sharing the moment across every social platform. The story was writing itself in real time, David slaying Goliath with pure intellect. Emma Rodriguez found her voice next, her HR training kicking in as she recognized a watershed moment. "For 4 years, Zara has been in this building while her mother worked nights to support them. We saw them every day and never bothered to look. That's on all of us." Brad attempted damage control with the desperation of someone watching their empire collapse. "Look, it's just a chess game, people. Let's not blow this out of proportion." "Just a chess game?" Angela Williams stood up slowly, her voice carrying a quiet power that silenced the room. For the first time in 4 years of working at Technova, she looked the employees directly in their eyes as equals. Mr. Morrison, while you were building your social media following, my daughter was memorizing the games of world champions. While you were making videos about disruption, she was studying for 4 hours every night after I finished cleaning your offices. She never asked for special treatment or recognition. She just wanted to learn. The live stream chat erupted with support. Speak your truth, Mama. Respect. That's a real mother right there. Angela continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. You said some people are naturally more intelligent than others. You're right. But intelligence doesn't care about your bank account, your followers, or your zip code. It exists everywhere. You just have to be willing to see it. Zara stepped beside her mother, her small hand finding Angela's. When she spoke, her words carried wisdom that seemed impossible from an 11-year-old throat. Chess taught me that every piece has value, Mr. Morrison. Even a pawn can become a queen if it makes the right moves. But you can't see potential when you're too busy looking down on people. The profound simplicity of her statement sent shockwaves through social media. Philosophy professors would quote it. Business schools would analyze it. The wisdom of a child had distilled complex issues of class and race into language everyone could understand. Tyler Kim pulled out his phone and addressed Brad directly. Dude, you need to hear this. Your follower count has dropped by 12 million in the last 30 minutes. The internet is done with fake superiority. They want authentic excellence, and we just saw what that looks like. The corporate consequences were already cascading. Emma's phone buzzed with emergency calls from Technova's board of directors. Stock price alerts showed a 8% drop in after-hours trading. Major sponsors were quietly pulling advertisements from Brad's channels. But the most devastating blow came from an unexpected source. Dad, you need to stop. Everyone turned to see Isabella Morrison, Brad's 16-year-old daughter, standing in the lobby entrance. She'd driven straight from her private school after watching the live stream with her classmates. You're embarrassing yourself and our family, Isabella continued, her voice shaking with adolescent certainty. This girl just proves she's smarter than you, more gracious than you, and definitely more humble than you. Maybe it's time to learn something instead of always teaching. The father-daughter confrontation played out before millions of viewers, adding another layer to the viral phenomenon. #Brad Morrison downfall began trending alongside #Zara genius. Brad stood in the wreckage of his public image, surrounded by employees who no longer feared him, watched by followers who no longer respected him, and confronted by a daughter who saw him clearly for the first time. He began, then stopped. For once in his career, Brad Morrison had nothing to say. Zara looked up at him with something approaching compassion. It's okay, Mr. Morrison. Everyone makes mistakes. The question is what you do next. The first 24 hours. The chess match video exploded across the internet with the force of a digital supernova. Within 6 hours, clips had been shared 50 million times across TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. #Zara Genius dominated trending topics in 47 countries. Chess.com, S servers crashed from traffic as millions tried to analyze the game. Brad Morrison's social media empire collapsed with breathtaking speed. His follower count plummeted from 50 million to 28 million in 12 hours. Major sponsors, Nike, Tesla, Apple, issued carefully worded statements about reassessing partnerships. Technova's stock price dropped 15% in after-hours trading as investors questioned the company's leadership. But the real story was Zara's meteoric rise. CNN featured her on primetime news. The Today Show booked her for an exclusive interview. Chess masters from Magnus Carlsen to Garry Kasparov tweeted their amazement. Hikaru Nakamura spent 3 hours analyzing her game on Twitch, calling it the most beautiful tactical sequence I've seen from someone her age. Week 1. Corporate Reckoning. Technova's emergency board meeting lasted 14 hours. Brad was placed on indefinite administrative leave while the company scrambled to distance itself from his toxic brand. Emma Rodriguez was promoted to interim CEO, the first Latina to hold the position in Silicon Valley's big tech sector. Her first executive decision shocked everyone. Angela Williams was offered the position of Director of Facilities and Employee Relations with a starting salary of $120,000 and full benefits. The promotion came with flexible hours to support Zara's emerging chess career. "We've been blind to the talent in our own building," Emma announced in a company-wide email. "That changes today." Meanwhile, chess academies worldwide competed to offer Zara scholarships. The Marshall Chess Club in New York provided full coaching. The Mechanics Institute in San Francisco offered unlimited training resources. Grandmaster Susan Polgar personally reached out to discuss long-term development. Month 1, the media circus. Zara's story transcended chess, becoming a cultural phenomenon about hidden potential and systematic prejudice. Netflix announced a documentary deal. Publishers offered 7-figure advances for Angela's memoir. The Smithsonian requested the marble chess set for a permanent exhibit on genius in America. But the family remained grounded. Zara continued attending Oakland Elementary, though now with a security detail after obsessive fans began showing up at the school. She started a YouTube channel called Chess for Everyone, teaching basic tactics to underserved communities. The channel gained 3 million subscribers in its first month. Angela's speaking career took off as corporations scrambled to book her for diversity conferences. Her message was simple but powerful. Genius exists everywhere. The question is whether you're willing to see it. Month 3. Systemic change. The Zara effect rippled through Silicon Valley like an earthquake. Tech companies launched programs to identify hidden talent among support staff families. Google created the Hidden Genius Initiative. Microsoft established chess programs in Title I schools. Apple funded coding boot camps for service workers' children. Brad Morrison attempted a comeback with a podcast called Second Chances, featuring interviews with people who'd overcome public humiliation. The venture failed spectacularly when guests repeatedly called out his continued arrogance. His net worth had dropped by 40% as business deals evaporated. Zara, meanwhile, was making chess history. She became the youngest player ever to defeat a grandmaster in a rated tournament, accomplishing the feat at the Chicago Open. Her rating soared past 2,400, official expert level. College scouts from Harvard, Stanford, and MIT began informal conversations about future academic opportunities. Month 6, championships and consequences. The U.S. Junior Chess Championships in St. Louis became Zara's coronation. She demolished players twice her age with surgical precision, winning the tournament by a full point. Her victory speech, delivered to a standing ovation, was characteristically humble. "Chess taught me that everyone starts on equal squares. What matters is how thoughtfully you move forward." Angela watched from the audience, tears streaming down her face. 6 months earlier, she'd been invisible, cleaning offices while the world slept. Now she sat in the VIP section, having just signed a book deal with Random House for Cleaning Up: A Mother's Guide to Nurturing Hidden Genius. Brad's fall continued its relentless trajectory. Technova's board officially terminated his contract, citing irreconcilable differences in company values. His various business ventures collapsed one by one. Former friends stopped returning calls. The tech media, once eager to cover his every pronouncement, now treated him as a cautionary tale. 1 year later, full circle. Zara Williams returned to Technova not as the invisible daughter of a cleaning woman, but as the company's youngest ever strategic innovation consultant. At 12, she split her time between chess training and helping Emma Rodriguez identify overlooked talent within the organization. Her chess achievements had reached historic proportions. She'd become the youngest black female to earn the expert title and was on track to become the youngest grandmaster in American history. Her YouTube channel had grown to 8 million subscribers, democratizing chess education for millions of children worldwide. The annual Technova Charity Gala featured Zara as the keynote speaker. She stood at the same podium where Brad had once held court, but her message was entirely different. "A year ago, I was invisible in this building," she began, her voice carried to millions watching the live stream. "Not because I wasn't here, but because people chose not to see me. That's the real tragedy. Not that genius is rare, but that we waste it when it doesn't look like what we expect." Angela watched from the front row, now a best-selling author and nationally recognized advocate for working families. Her book had sparked congressional hearings on educational inequality and corporate responsibility. The marble chess set that started everything sat in the Smithsonian, with a placard reading, "In this position, 11-year-old Zara Williams announced checkmate in 4 moves against tech CEO Brad Morrison, proving that genius recognizes no boundaries of age, race, or economic status." The legacy chess enrollment among minority students increased 400% in the year following the match, as historians were already calling it. The Zara Williams Foundation, established with money from her media deals, provided chess instruction and educational support to underserved communities across America. Brad Morrison had faded into relative obscurity, his attempted comebacks consistently failing as the public remained unforgiving of his casual cruelty. He'd become a business school case study in how quickly social media fame could transform into infamy. But perhaps the most important change was cultural. The phrase, "Don't judge the cleaning lady's daughter," entered common usage, reminding people to look beyond surface appearances. Zara's story proved that in an age of artificial intelligence and technological disruption, human intelligence remained the most valuable resource, and it existed everywhere, waiting to be discovered. Final call to action. As Zara's voice echoed through the Technova auditorium and across the internet, her final words carried a challenge that resonated across cultures and continents. Success isn't about where you start. It's about how far you're willing to go. Chess taught me that every piece matters, and every person has potential. Sometimes you just need someone to believe in you, or to believe in yourself. She paused, looking directly into the camera that had once captured her humiliation and transformed it into triumph. If this story inspired you, share it. Subscribe for more stories of hidden genius and unexpected triumph. And remember, the next time you see someone being overlooked or underestimated, ask yourself, what if they're the next person who could change the world? The video ended with the image that had become iconic worldwide. A young black girl and her mother embracing beside a chessboard, surrounded by people who had finally learned to see.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.